What's up? Do you have an offset smoker kind of like this? Do you want delicious brisket kind of like this one? If you answered yes to both of those questions, well, you're in luck. That's what we're doing. I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide, and we're going to get one started, and it's going to be delicious, it's going to be juicy, it's going to be smoky, it's going to be amazing. But first, I need to go grab a brisket. I'm going to go grab one. Okay, so what we have here is a prime brisket. Now, here's the thing about this. You saw me go get it. We need to discuss the very first step, and that's selection. Selection's important. There's prime, there's choice, and there's select. We're going to completely stay away from the select. Choice, if you need to, it's probably fine. Prime is going to be the best, and if you really could afford it, the Wagyu brisket. But that's like crazy amounts of money, and unless you're really trying to impress someone, we need to find one that's relatively, well, I would say, okay. I looked at this one, and when I got it, the ends were actually almost uniform. That's almost unheard of. Usually there's like one side that's thinner. I mean, this one was a little bit, but majority of them will be a decent amount, so you have to trim off a healthy quarter. So, yeah, try to find one you don't have to do that. The only real problem I found with this one is there was a boo-boo right here. I don't really know who did that, but I'm assuming it was probably the butcher. I probably could have trimmed off a few extra pieces here, but I'm not too worried about it. It should be fine. I also made a boo-boo right there. That was my problem, but that's just me. So now that in addition to that, we also need to talk about something. In fact, let's just go ahead and talk about that right now. So something that a lot of people don't talk about the selection, what they will never say is, how many people are you feeding? I always end up seeing like people, especially when I go and buy it, they're getting like the biggest one. And one time I even asked like, oh, are you having someone over or going for an event or a group? Like, oh no, I'm having a couple friends over for a dinner party on Saturday. Like, oh, a lot? And they're like, oh no, just 2 or 3. And they're buying like a huge, I barely see those style of briskets. And I'm just like, why? You're gonna have so much left over. Well, I'm not saying brisket's bad when it's not fresh. It's definitely not as good. So I prefer to get something that can be eaten well within 2 days. That's it. So include that in your selection. I feel like that tip is very overlooked in the YouTube world. So let's continue. Now that we have that conversation, trimming. Trimming for me is going to be easy. All you need to do is watch this video and you're going to see how to trim. So that makes this section easy. Let's go to the next section. Seasoning is not as standard as you would imagine. We need to talk about the time as well as the seasoning. Time, you want to do this at least 6 to 12 hours before you're actually going to put it on the smoker. So I'm going to give you a quick timing that will break down. We're going to have a couple steps here. The first step is going to be in the refrigerator. Second step is going to be in the smoker. And the third step is going to be someplace to hold it. The first one needs to be 12 hours. The second one, depending on the size, is going to be anywhere between 12, potentially 16 hours. Maybe more if you get a really big one. And yeah. The third one is going to be about 12 to 18 hours. So you really need to figure out what time you want to eat this. So figuring out that, it's a long process. It's not going to be like you're eating dinner tonight and it's like 10 o'clock this morning. It's not going to happen. You can watch videos on that, but they're a bunch of bullshit. So timing. We need to do this at least 12 hours before I want to start smoking tomorrow morning. This is the evening. It may not look like it, but it is. And then we need to put in the refrigerator overnight. So that's that. Next, is the seasoning. This is going to be about 40% cracked black pepper, and that's freshly cracked, which actually we need to have another conversation. We have some Buffalo Trace, by the way, in our Manly Stanley, and some bubble waters, which makes it a little bit less manly, but definitely as much Stanley. Anyway, moving on. So freshly cracked black pepper is pretty much required. Go get yourself one of these. I got on Amazon, turn it to the coarse setting, get some actual peppercorns, and crack it. Put it in there. Don't use that pre-made stuff. Most definitely don't get the fine stuff. That will just, the texture will be all wrong. Won't absorb as much smoke, and it just won't be as good. You'll know the difference in the first bite, and so will everyone else. So get a freshly cracked one. Now that that conversation's done, let's continue. The 40% is going to be kosher salt, and then the remaining 10% is going to be paprika, and then the real remaining 10% is going to be garlic powder. It looks a little heavy on the paprika. I kind of like it that way, but if in general you don't really like it, I mean, this is probably closer to 15% paprika, to be honest, but that's just the way I like to do it. So what we need to do is we need to get this seasoned. These hands are clean. That is clean. All this is clean. We are going to be seasoning this side first. Now, the more astute amongst you will notice that there's some silver skin on here. That's myth. Did you know that? That will render down. If it's super bad or super thick, it potentially could cause it to curl if it's not thick enough. And I potentially could have taken off some of these other bits, but I think they're going to be fine. This is avocado oil. You can use any oil you want. Gonna rub that in there. Maybe a little bit more. This is going to serve two purposes. One, it's going to be the binder, obviously. And two, it is going to kind of help make our fat render a little bit better, kind of like deep fries it a little bit. We have our container. This is just a cheap one I found on Amazon. If you buy containers pre-made for the other seasonings, save the container and you can reuse it. We're going to take it like this, and we're going to season as so. I'm just going to use my dirty hand. I'll wash this later. Okay. This is a big old piece of meat, so you can be as heavy-handed as you want. There will be plenty of regrets for having not enough seasoning, but I guarantee you there generally is no regrets for having too much. Now it's important that we do that side first, and I'll explain why. Let's flip it first though. There we go. More oil. Now we have both our hands dirty, which is okay. Anyway, the reason why we do that is when we put this on the smoker, we want this to be our facing or our upward facing side. We don't want it to be down. Now, there's people out there who will do, fat side down, and they say it's good. I'm just gonna say don't do that. We're kind of doing a little bit more of a Texas inspired, and that's what they do. And yet again, heavy on the seasoning. And when you make this, you can make as much as you want, which is why I like making it. Okay, so that step is done. The next step we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in the smoker. But like I said, we're not gonna do that until tomorrow morning, but here's a tip for you. If you're doing it like me, and you don't feel like waking up especially early, get your smoker ready right now. Our next step is going to include smoking. And so we're gonna go over it step by step as well. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna put this in the the refrigerator, and tomorrow morning we'll continue on. But for you, it'll be pretty much instant. Good morning. Right now, I am getting the smoker up to temperature, and it's a beautiful morning, not only for the weather, but we are going to be using this bad boy here, which I made, by the way. We need to do a couple things. So this is the next step. We need to get some coals started. Coals are going to be some of the most important thing that you can possibly have in an offset smoker. I know it seems weird. You would assume it's the wood. Well, that's like the second most important, because the wood won't burn without a good coal bed. So having a good coal bed is 100% required. For something like this, you very well might need to, and a homeowner version. If less you want to have one that you literally need a truck to pull in, you're probably going to need to add a little bit of charcoal along the way. I highly recommend you do not use anything besides lump charcoal. Don't use briquettes. That's just going to be a lot of ash. But right now, I put way too much wood in there. I just want to get a nice coal bed. We're actually only pushing about 275, which is kind of odd, but we're going to be doing that. Now, once we have the wood or the nice coal bed, we're going to put some wood in there. I have, at least in my area, trying to find post oak is a very expensive proposition. So I just have normal kiln dried oak that I bought from my local supplier, and here we are. We're going to be using that, but we can't do that until this gets up to temp, which it is. Yeah, and I need to have a little bit more of a coal bed. So I'm gonna let this burn for about another 10 minutes or so. And if you want to know how I started it, it's a real simple process. It's called propane torch. Revolutionary, I know. But I'm gonna get this nice and warm, gonna get this cooking good, and once we have it on the smoker, I'll go ahead and tell you the next step. But before I do that, I do want to give you a special tip. If it's been a while since you've cooked on it, or if it's your first cook, get this thing blazing hot, like blazing hot. Just burn out all the crap that's in there, because you don't want to ruin an expensive piece of meat like we have today by just putting it in a dirty ass smoker. Clean it, get a brush, do whatever you need to do, clean it, get it blazing hot, good to go. That's what I did yesterday, so we should be set to go. So I'm gonna let this chill, and I'll be back. And we should be good to go. The smoke, I don't know if it's coming well on camera, it's a very nice blue. We are chilling at about 275-ish, which is kind of what I'm gonna put in there. So I'm gonna go grab it. It's been in the refrigerator for overnight. I'm gonna put it in here. Now, the next step, temperature and wood. So I'm gonna let this chill for a little bit longer. I want to explain this, and then we'll have a montage. There's a couple ways to control temperature in this. That's gonna be fuel and air. I repeat, do not like controlling it strictly by air. That's gonna give you a very dirty burn, and it's gonna give you a nasty ass flavor. I don't want that. I want a delicious flavor. So knowing that, I'm gonna have to control the amount of fuel I put in there. You're gonna have to kind of learn your smoker. So if this is your first time using it, I would highly recommend you do not learn on this. Just go through a couple logs, get a good feel for what amount of wood is going to be correlating to what temperature. 100% open, I like that. Well, for a brisket, what you really want is airflow. That's gonna render the fat cap nicely. It's gonna give a nice even cook, restricting the amount of wood to really give us a maximum airflow. A very good clean burn, gonna give us a nice amount of smoke. You do not want billowing. You do not want super white. You want a nice light blue, which is almost exactly what we are getting here right now. So now that we have that done, pretty much we're going to put the brisket in there, and we're going to cook it to 175 degrees, and then we're going to do our next step. So enjoy this montage. we finally made it. Sun's in my eyes, so hopefully it's not too much. But inside here is apple cider vinegar. This is a previously made beef tallow. If you don't have beef tallow, you could go ahead and use butter or preferably ghee. It doesn't really matter. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our beef tallow and we're going to add some. Naturally, the wind is going to be very helpful today. It's only windy when I don't need it to be. When I have aluminum foil, when I have paper, all that, it is windy. But when I have like a brick, not a single gust in sight. Anyway, we're going to take this, spray the paper. This is mainly just to make my life and your life easier. So, what I need to do, usually I wouldn't put that there, but yet again, wind. I'm going to get it off of the smoker. It's currently sitting at 175 degrees internal, and that is at the point. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap it. Doesn't that look sexy already? I think so. I mean, Miss Rain or Shine Barbecue doesn't have to worry, but we're gonna take this out. Ooh, it's already looking juicy too. I'm gonna put this down here real quick. Okay, now we're going to wrap it. Some might wonder why we are not doing something called a foil boat. To me, a foil boat is probably something that's primarily done for anything that is not a offset. Now, you don't need to go crazy with the wrapping. Some people put like 12 yards of paper. That's not really necessary. So we're gonna put this back on the smoker. I'm going to crank up the heat to about 300. Now, let me explain something real quick. There was a time when I had to answer a phone call and I completely forgot, and my temperature got down to 220. I was like, oh shit. I put some wood in there, temperature went to 300. But every other time it hovered around 260 to 285 with a mean about 275. So I'm gonna put this back on there and we have to have a sit down. I don't want to forget this finish line. We have our Manly Stanley with some Buffalo Trace in there. So right now we're using a smoker strictly for heat. So if you're running out of wood, you need to see a urologist. I'm joking. But if you're running out of wood, you can easily just shove this in a electric stove, gas range, it doesn't really matter. But we're gonna cook this to 190 to 195. I lean more towards 190. Let me explain why. I am a product of the early 90s. I played video games. I played Nintendo 64. One of my favorite video games I still play to this day is Mario 64. Fun fact, video games run on frames just like movies do, like you're watching now, or videos. There's something called a frame perfect input. Basically what that is every second there's 30 frames. So some people have to gotten to the point where they push the button and it's exactly at the right time, right on the right frame. That to me is crazy, but people can do it. I bring that up because a lot of people like to just take it to 200, probe tender it until they get to the perfect tenderness, and then they let it cool. We're not doing that because you have to get frame perfect basically. And here's the problem with that. Maybe the flat is going to be perfect and the point is not. Which one do you want to sacrifice? I'm in a boat of don't sacrifice any. We're going to extend this out. So right now, gas smoker. It's cheap, bought on Amazon. You can even put this in your stove if you want to, if you could put it down low enough. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in there for 12 to 18 hours. And let me explain why. The reason why we do it at 200 is because that's when the collagen pretty much breaks down to the perfect level. That can be done in a very short amount of time or a very long amount of time. At a very long amount of time, we're going to be doing about 145 for 12 to 18 hours. By doing that, we can ensure the whole thing gets tender. We're not going to overcook it by accident or by sacrifice. So if we don't want to deal with that nonsense, like I don't, I'm just going to put it in there, put it in your stove, or you could just put it in a cooler and let it cool down gradually. 100% you're not going to regret it. Get yourself one of these cheap little propane ones or electric, doesn't really matter, and just put it in there. I'm going to set it to the lowest setting, and that lowest setting luckily is 140, but in reality it's 145 because it's propane, and that's what the temperature gauge says. I mean the probe, not the gauge. The gauge on that thing's a piece of shit, but we're not going to go down that avenue. So we're going to put that in there. I mention that because it is getting a little dark, well, at the end of the day. So the likelihood of me actually being able to record that is pretty minimal. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in there. If you don't want to do that, feel free to just probe it until it's probe tender. What that means is take a stick of butter, put it out overnight, take your probe, shove that probe into that butter, and that's exactly what it should feel like that. The best way I can describe it. Like I said, that's pretty risky, it's pretty frame perfect, and I don't feel like messing it up. And it's very easy when you're cooking something at 300 degrees about 300, because things move rapidly. And if you cook it again at 250, it's just gonna be dragging the entire time. So we need to kind of figure out the best avenue here. And the best avenue for me is gonna be putting it in there. So that is going to be 12 to 18 hours from now, but for you, it's going to be like this. It's finally done. Let's see what we have here. I'm going to take this out, off to the side. We have our knife. Now, if you notice a little smoke, it's because there's a fire next to you. Look at that bark. But all this is fluff. Let's see what we have here. Bark, nice and barky. The top feels nice and rendered. I guess we just cut into it. This is a dull knife, by the way. I forgot to sharpen it. I feel like that's my common problem. But look at this. Shove you off to the side. It is so juicy. Oh my, that is looking very delicious. Suppose we won't know until we actually take a bite of it now, should we? So, let's take a bite. Take a piece of the flat here. Uh-oh, Smokey's coming. This is kind of more of the point. Let's do another slice. I didn't cut it very well at the beginning. So the side over here definitely got a little bit overdone, but let's give it a try. Oh, that's magical. Very smoky. The pepper is really driving the show right now. What I can say though is when I put it in the holder, it's actually at 230. It's been in there for about 22 hours. Not necessarily recommended, but you know, it's not all bad. Just one little area on the side, from the looks of it, is a little bit dry, but that's fine. but the rest of it will. Do the whole spin test, so that's good. Just this one little section right here. Not really sure what happened with that. I think that was the area that was kind of in the middle, and that very well might have just needed to be moved over when I put it in the paper. I should have flipped it. That's my bad. So when you do this, make sure to flip it. That cap looks fairly decently rendered. A little thicker. Probably should have done it a little bit more aggressively, but it's okay. But it's melting in your mouth good. If it wasn't just for that one little side piece. Okay. I don't think you're gonna want to watch me eat this whole thing. So, I'm gonna go ahead and leave you at that. If you like to see, keep watching, definitely subscribe. Leave a thumbs up if this helped you out. Definitely helps me out. And I'll catch you on the next one. You have a good night.